One of the things that people were excited about with She-Hulk was that we'd be seeing more of Bruce Banner's Hulk. Aside from a post-credit cameo in Shang-Chi, the last time we saw much of him was in Avengers Endgame. That being said, people complained about how the Hulk was portrayed in. In this video, we'll answer why the Hulk was so weak. First, let's set the record. Even at his weakest, the Hulk is pretty strong. The main display of his strength in She-Hulk is during a sequence where Bruce trains his cousin, Jennifer Walters, the newest Hulk on the block, on how to use and manage her powers. He can still do ground pounds, sonic boom claps, and throw boulders and cars around easily. This is a very dangerous individual, and other heroes still need a Hulkbuster to compete with him. Moving on, we still can't deny that this Hulk was far from his strongest. While it would take forever to list the feats of strength Hulk displayed during his one and only MCU movie, The Incredible Hulk, he's proven his strength even in his secondary character appearances. The Avengers saw him leaping hundreds of feet into the air, wrecking the strongest fighters of the Chitauri, and even damaging their ships. And Tony had to cause massive destruction in a city trying to fight him with the Hulkbuster. On She-Hulk, Bruce jobs to his cousin, who's pretty new to this Hulk business. Based on everything we've seen this person do throughout the MCU's history, it shouldn't be easy to beat him. Being a big green monster doesn't make you the Hulk's equal. Ask Emil Blonsky, he's right there. This is something that ticked off some viewers of the show. Some think that Marvel Studios is trying to make She-Hulk a Mary Sue. We're going to stay far away from that hornet's nest. The truth is that, if you think about it, Marvel has been de-escalating Hulk's strength for a while. Let's talk about some of the reasons why they're doing this. Next up, you must remember that the Hulk is least likable when angry. One thing that's been established throughout the MCU is that the Hulk is a rage monster. He comes out when Bruce is agitated or in danger, and then he feeds on that rage to become stronger and deadlier. The Incredible Hulk focused a lot on Banner's efforts to control his anger, with many scenes of him doing yoga. By the time the first Avengers begins, Banner has a decent amount of control over the Hulk's transformations. As for She-Hulk, Banner can transform into and out of the Hulk at will, as long as he isn't carrying too much rage. And while Jen's flippant attitude may be annoying to Bruce, it doesn't make him angry in a way that would let him rip his cousin to shreds. The fight between him and Jen is a slap fight between cousins, and we now see what kind of strength the Hulk has when the anger tank is empty. When you think about it, this is a lesson that Jen learns the hard way. Throughout the show, Jen stays in Hulk form for the fame of it all, and she can live a pretty normal life. She can even stay in Hulk form in the bedroom, if you're wondering. But when she's humiliated in front of her colleagues, the mixture of shame and rage makes her lose control. Now, there's also a more practical reason for nerfing the Hulk. With superhero content, it can be hard to manage the power levels of some of the most powerful superheroes. There are some characters out there that, if you set their traits in stone, would be nearly impossible to defeat for any villain. Take, for example, DC's The Flash. This guy can run fast enough to travel through time and even through the DC multiverse. Or consider Superman, whose only weakness are kryptonite and magic. If they're facing the strongest villains of the DC universe, you could reasonably bend the odds into evenness. But you can't always have the biggest and worst villains fighting these characters. Thor has been a victim of this too. On paper, his power level is similar to Hulk's, so his power must be nerfed for villains to be a challenge. The truth is, Gore shouldn't have been able to give Thor such a hard time just because he had a mystical sword. Similarly, the Hulk, Thanos was the only individual who could fight him. Sometimes, though, the Hulk has to fight villains of a lower tier than Thanos, and in those cases, the Hulk has to be weak enough for that villain to be a serious challenge. Accepting these power level fluctuations is part of the new suspension of disbelief, which is very important with a movie or a show starring a big green monster. Finally, don't forget whose show this is. This is another real-world consideration, but as Jen keeps reminding us, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, is her show, and you can't expect Jen to take an L so early in her show. That would undermine her character for the sake of boosting a character who has like 30 minutes of screen time across 9 episodes. Now, you could argue that the protagonist of a show has to suffer losses in the beginning to overcome them and achieve success by the end, and that does happen to Jen, just not as a Hulk. Early in the show, she loses her cushy job, and while she does end up with a better one, the whole show revolves around navigating her life as the world's first superpowered lawyer. That stuff is what She-Hulk is really about. If this was a straightforward superhero show, it might have made sense for Jen to lose to Hulk and then beat him or Abomination later, but the show gives her character an arc in these things that are relevant to the themes of the show. If you've reached the bizarre ending of the series, you will get where we're coming from. We think the show's mission statement is very clear. Whether or not you're willing to hear it is up to you. Let's turn to the comics to see how strong the Hulk can be. If you want to put some number on the Hulk's raw strength, one example comes from the 1984 version of Secret Wars. In that story, which came 25 years into the Hulk's existence, the big green monster and a group of heroes are trapped under a huge mountain. The cover announces that the mountain is 150 billion tons. How did they get out of that situation? You can bet that the other heroes annoyed the Hulk into getting angry enough that he could lift the mountain without too much difficulty. This is a weird quirk of how Hulk's strength is proportional to his rage. Is there a limit to how much you can feel an emotion? Cause if there isn't, that means the Hulk has nearly infinite theoretical strength. One display of his infinity strength also came during Jonathan Hickman's Infinity event. There, the Hulk holds up the weight of a star all by himself. Now, they don't say how heavy the star is, but if it's somewhere around the weight of our sun, we're talking 2 octillion tons. That strength would allow Hulk to play fool with the laws of physics, but that's comics for you. Other highlights from Hulk's career include causing an earthquake by stomping in World War Hulk and destroying planets during the Immortal Hulk series. And last, how does that compare to She-Hulk in the comics? There's no doubt that She-Hulk ranks in the top tier of strong Marvel heroes in the comics. Regarding the female heroes, in particular, we wouldn't be surprised if She-Hulk was the strongest. That said, we've never gotten scenes of her lifting hundreds of billions of tons, let alone octillions of tons. What we have seen her do is defeat Thanos, who was a real terror to the MCU Hulk. She's also battled the likes of Captain America and Vision. According to the Avengers, Jen is usually a beta-level threat, but since she also scales up in power with rage, she's capable of the Omega-level threat, which is the highest one. Much like the Disney Plus series, She-Hulk appears in a more diverse range of stories than the Hulk. She's called upon to use her superhuman legal acumen just as often as she uses her superhuman strength. In the comics, it seems that She-Hulk might rank below her cousin in strength, but not by too much. Jen's real strength in the comics, though, might be her ability to break the fourth wall. She-Hulk is the sort of person to destroy the panels of a comic and throw them in the trash if she doesn't like where the story is headed. Let's see Bruce try to do that. That's it for today's video. Let us know in the comment section what you thought of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, and the portrayal of Hulk in it. But whatever you do, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.